Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. Manipur, a problem that is not solving. A lot of effort is being put, things are reducing, things are calming down, but the problem doesn't seem to solve itself. A lot of different spins have come on this entire thing, and we'll discuss all the spins and the right narrative or the truth of the matter, if I may. I won't call it a narrative because it's really the truth. Why is this issue still going on? I have with me Mr. Savio Rodrigues from the Goa Chronicle, who's been there on the ground and seen the reality. Good evening. Welcome to the show for the first time. Honored to have you. Just an opening remark of what you saw when the last time you visited Manipur.
Okay, so if I had to describe Manipur in one word or in one sentence, Manipur is a land of good people, very hospitable, very loving people, whether they were Maitis or whether they were cookies. I met them. I shared food with them, lunch and dinner at different times, and they were actually very sweet people. So I was a little troubled prior to going to Manipur because the people of Manipur that I met in Goa and other parts of India always came across as very hospitable, very loving. But suddenly you start to read about this immense hate between both communities, this immense violence, barbaric nature of violence. And it disturbed me because I didn't see them as that. So when I went to Manipur for the first time, when I met with people both from the Maiti and the Kuki communities, it looked to me like it was in a state of a civil war, and the people had so much hatred for each other. When I mean each other, I'm referring to the communities. But when you were with them and you were a part of their specific community, they were loving, they were kind, they were wonderful conversationalists. So I couldn't figure for myself what is the hate all about? Why are they hating each other when on their own and individually they are good people? So that's when I started to investigate a lot more, meet a lot of people, and have been talking about peace and harmony in Manipur because I believe in my heart that when people are good, intrinsically good, then peace will eventually come there once the hatred is taken away from them. Right now, they are in a lot of hate amongst each other, hate because it has been allowed to percolate for a very long time. Certain misconceptions, certain misinformation, and more importantly, when the conflict happened, Adi, there was so much of information from both sides that clouded everybody's mind. Whether you were sitting in Manipur or whether you were sitting outside of Manipur, you were torn between which side to take. And
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is, someone like me, we are only interested in the truth. And if you were to ask me, the truth is Manipur is a beautiful place. They are beautiful people. Something as or some set of people have allowed these beautiful people to just develop hatred for each other. And that hatred was actually, brought out in the violence against each other, in the violence against some of the women from both communities. It is sad, but I believe, like I said, in my heart, that peace will return to Manipur.
So we were discussing online, offline just before the interview. There are a couple of causes, and I think we both are on the same page with regards to the causes of this entire game. Uh, I want to keep the international influence, the geopolitical angle of it a little outside. I want to focus on the drugs first. And this is something which has come to light that, of course, with the drug reduction in one of the drug producing areas, which is Afghanistan, this had to blow up. Uh, I kind of put it like that in my mind that this had to happen because that's like the main hub point of this thing. And with the crisis in Myanmar, obviously that'll be more under pressure. How would you kind of explain this situation?
When I came from Manipur and I met a few people from television channels, and I was asked to describe the conflict in Manipur, I primarily said that the conflict in Manipur is nothing but a narcotics conflict. It is a 70,000 crore narcotics business. 70,000 crore. Now, why has it this entire conflict risen? Narcotics, if you analyze when you go to areas where there is very strong narcotics, there's always going to be conflict in those areas, and those conflicts get accentuated by fault lines that would be existing in that society. In Manipur, the real fight is for the land in Manipur, the land on the hills, the land also within the valley. It is about control of the land. Now, why is this control of the land very important? One is for cultivation, two is for the labs, three is for the accessibility using the borders. That's where land becomes very important. Now, 70,000 crore narcotics business is not only poppy. Okay, if you were to analyze the narcotics business, 35% of the cultivation of poppy and the narcotics business out of poppy is primarily the poppy cultivation, which happens in the hills. But you also have a very large growth of synthetic drugs happening out of Manipur, and they happen in the mighty Pangal areas. And two of the areas have been in the news for with the Narcotics Bureau as well for a long time, because they've gone and identified these labs and even sort of raided one or two of these labs in the past. So the point is 35% is poppy, about 12% is cannabis, and the rest are synthetic drugs. Now, synthetic drugs are the largest, sale of drugs happening all around the world. So, why is Manipur important? Manipur is important because it has accessibility to Myanmar, which is the largest drug-producing state in the world, country in the world at this point of time. It is even far short what is happening in Colombia and, of course, Afghanistan because of the recent change in Afghanistan that has happened. Myanmar has got drugs. Manipur has got drug cultivation happening, poppy cultivation, synthetic labs that are there. Manipur also is an exit point for the rest of the cities in India. So people are able to sell these synthetic drugs and even the poppy-based drugs of heroin into India. Then you have an ability to sell it out of the border. So you have Bangladesh in one end, you have Myanmar in the other end. That's exactly what it is. It is it is Narcos 3 actually playing out in Manipur. Okay, so when people said it was a religious conflict, I was a little worried because it is easy to turn everything into a religious conflict. It
Mm,
is not a
mm,
religious conflict.
yeah.
Okay, it is a narcotics conflict going on territorial control. That's really what it is. Now, in narcotics, let's also be brutally honest. You will have the involvement of politicians. There will be involvement of people from the law and order
Yeah.
authorities. You are going to have people at the highest echelons of power in the state that will have control, or some say, in the narcotics business. And that's exactly what is happening in Manipur. Let me state this categorically, and I've said it so many times on social media and in my articles. No one in Manipur in the current conflict is a saint. As far as narcotics is concerned, every community is involved in narcotics in some level or the other. And when I'm referring to communities, I'm talking about the few people that are in the narcotics trade. It is not about the entire community. Because Maitis and cookies, like I said earlier, they are genuinely good people. But what happened is you had the High Court order with regards to the ST reservation. Okay, then you had the protests that happened, and following the protest there was this conflict that turned completely violent. It is now up to the investigative agencies both at the state and the center to understand why suddenly has this violence erupted into such a wild manner. You see, it's not that the conflict between the Maitis and the cookies were not existing. It was
Mm,
dormant. Somebody had to flare it up. So between April 21st to May 3rd, It is important, and I believe certain investigative agencies are working on it. They are tracking phone records, they are tracking bank details, they are tracking everything. Because what one cannot understand is that the animosity that exists between the Maitis and the Cookies is not new.
How
It
did it
was
explode?
always there. So what triggered it? The ST reservation also, which is considered to be one of the triggers, could have found its logical end in the court. It didn't need to get onto a road-based violence or a street-based violence. So what triggered it off? That is the role of the investigation, and that is why I have said it before, and I'm saying it again on your channel. China has a very, very strong hand as far as Manipur conflict is concerned. Why am I saying that? Because every militant group, some who have been termed as terrorists as well, have their rootings in Myanmar, where they have been trained, not now, but they've been trained for years. Okay, a group like a PLA, a UNLF, these are people known to be terror organizations. Then you have a thing like KNA, the KNF from the cookie side. They are all interconnected, and their roots are in Myanmar, and their roots are with China. The weapons, the funding, the need for the cartels to control Manipur are again Chinese based drug cartels. So China has got a hand in it. So if you're asking me that this entire thing has got to do with the conflict between Maitis and the Cookies that have existed for decades, and suddenly these two groups have decided to go insane and bloodthirsty, I am not willing to accept that, because I don't think these people are that. They are not barbarians, right? So we need to identify as the government and investigative agency what were the groups that triggered this. PLA, for one, is an organization. If you go onto their website, they talk about a separate Manipur. In the same light, you have the guys from Cookie who talk about a separate administration and a separate land for themselves. Now, what many people don't understand in Manipur is a 53% of the Maiti population are within 10 to 11% of the land mass. Okay. Then you have the Cookies and the Nagas that have a slightly lesser population but are in the large land masses. So either one of them, the Maitis or the Cookies, are not wrong in their assertion of protecting their territorial rights or their constitutional rights. They are not wrong.
Mm.
Okay? If the Maitis are saying we need ST reservations, it is coming out of the fear that they don't know where to go. Because in the valley, there's only so much that can happen. Right? So they are looking at expanding. Now, why is this situation there? Why is this conflict there? The conflict is there because successive governments in the past have not been able to have a full-fledged plan for development of Manipur holistically. So, now what is it seeming to everybody is that the Maitis get certain favor, the Cookies get certain favors, the Nagas get certain favors, and everybody is saying that, oh, listen, though I'm getting favor, my favor is a little less than the other. So I need to get more, which is why the Cookies are saying we need a separate administration. We want the center to put more funds to the areas which are Cookie dominated areas, right? The Maitis are saying, listen, we don't have land mass, so why not open the hills for us also to expand? Now, neither, like I said, neither is wrong. But why does this conflict exist? It exists because successive governments have not understood that in order to develop Manipur, for example, a Cookie can come and live in Imphal, which is the valley area, which is the capital, right? They're coming there, they're living, they're working with the government. Some of them are brilliant officers that work in with the government, right? Can the Mighty go and do almost the same in the hills? He will be restricted, right? So that's where the problem is. The problem is we from a lack of foresight in administration, we have not understood that the tribal or the indigenous people of a particular state need to live and coexist together. So in order for them to not have animosity against each other, there has to be equal distribution of development across. If you see Imphal, the valley is very well developed, but if you look at the villages that are there in the Kuki areas, are very poorly developed,
Poorly. Now you're
right?
getting the first railway and stuff like that. So
Correct. So the point is, there is always obviously going to be animosity. There's going to be angst. There's going to be a hate to a certain extent, very little. But for that hate to mushroom into an atom bomb, has to have a trigger. It has to have a detonator, and that detonator, I believe, is with people who have got an interest in dividing India and creating conflict in India. So if you look at the people in each of the groups, the Maitis and the Kukis, and including the Nagas, who are rather very silent, you will realize that there is in this conflict pushing group, a lot of them have got allegiances or alliances, to name it, with people from outside of India, foreign organizations working, which is why one of the questions I asked was on April 29th, what was foreign media doing in Manipur? Because the conflict was not there on April 29th. The conflict started
there
on
was
May 3rd. So, what
there was
were
nothing actually in that time.
three main foreign organization representatives doing there? Right? Somebody believed that something was going to happen. Now, let's say you were. Now, the other thing which I use to as a logical deduction is, why would any foreign media be interested in silent protests happening against an ST reservation? Did you see foreign media coming to any other silent protest happening in other parts of the country? Why were they there for a silent protest? So the problem, I'll tell you, where the Maitis and the Cookies are not understanding, and failure for understanding is because they are blinded by their preconceived ideas or beliefs right now. The enemy is not the Maiti or the Cookie. The enemy is the one that has got them to fight. Those are the enemies. So who wants the fight? The narcotics lobby wants the fight because it wants control. It wants control of the land. Who's ever striking at them is striking to control the land. The land is the gift is a gifted land. That it's doing poppy cultivation is sad. But Manipur's land is a very gifted land. There are a lot of blessings on that land. If you go by their own belief systems, traditionally, the inherent quality of Manipur, whether you are a Sana Mahi, whether you are a Vaishnavite Hindu, whether you are a converted Christian, you still have your roots with the land, because there is an energy in that land. There is a positivity in that land. There's a huge power of the sacred feminine in that land. And that is why it is disappointing when you have people who are believers of the Indian subcontinent, because that's a very potent power in Manipur, the power of the women. How do you then allow men to disrobe women publicly and then gang rape one of them as per their reports in the FIRs filed? And the same thing is allegedly done by to a mighty woman as well, by cookies,
Cookies.
right? So in a land that worships sacred feminine, you are wondering why this hate. And that's what I'm saying. It is not that the problem did not exist. The differences between mighties and cookies did not, it's not that it was new, it existed before. So what triggered it? I mean, think about it. You had a BJP MLA. BJP is the ruling party there. A BJP MLA belonging to the cookie community was beaten to near death.
Hmm.
He was beaten to near death. It was Biren Singh, the CM, who then called for an air ambulance when he was in this when the hospital in Manipur, and then taken to Apollo. So this was not religious. This was hate at an ethnic level between the two communities. But what triggered it? I am not willing to accept it's the ST reservation. You cannot become barbaric just because you have your protest has turned a little untowards or
Yeah.
violent.
Yeah.
Eventually, what happened? The Supreme Court had something to say about it. No, the case is going on, but it had a view onto what the High Court judgment was. So when the ST reservation issue is going on, the logical end or to the problem or the concerns of the ST reservation would have been in court. It could not be on the street. So somebody has taken this issue and allowed it to blow up, whereby ensuring there is instability in the northeast, using Manipur as the shoulder for which to shoot on. One. Second, to make it look as a religious conflict, where the minorities, in this case the Christians, are in danger. But in all actuality, both are in danger.
Everybody's in danger.
You could be a Naga and a Gorkha, and you could still be in danger as well, right? So the point
Yeah.
is who triggered this, and that is what the investigation is. And I'm telling you today, if you see what the NIA has done, it is they allowed for those five boys, men, who attacked the Assam Rifles and the Indian Army, and they were jailed and they were let loose again. They were set free. The NIA stepped in, picked up Anand Singh. Anand Singh has been charged with certain aspects wherein he has worked with terror outfits to to attack India, to have terror-related activities planned in India, to use the ethnic conflict to further strike at the heart of India. Anand Singh is just one of the many that will come out. And I'm saying this: if there is one organization that needs to be gone after, it is the PLA itself. PLA Manipur, I'm saying this with utmost surety and confidence that the root cause of the conflict exaggeration and the planned killing is the PLA in Manipur. And the PLA in Manipur does not care whether you're Mighty or a Cookie. They work with both. Okay.
Opportunist.
There is this thought process which is created that PLA is basically Mighty. PLA is not anybody's. PLA is China. And they want a separate Manipur. That is what they write on their website. It continues to be that. They even spoke during the Independence Day. Go onto their website. We put it out in an article. Everybody clouds PLA and brings other insurgents group up, just like people used to do with the PFI.
Yeah.
The PFI, when the NIA went after it, when the NSA with his wisdom went after it, they realized what actually lay below the surface of a PFI. In much the same way, the PLA Manipur is one of the most dangerous ones in Manipur right now and at the center of this conflict. Not that the Cookie guys are innocent, but I'm saying this again. Both the Mighty insurgents and the Cookie insurgents, their source is the same. It comes from Myanmar, which means it comes from China at the end of the day.
Really? Hmm. That's that gun running town of China, which is there on the trijunctional border between uh, India, China, and Myanmar. Uh,
We talk about drugs. Do you know what is the second largest industry out of Manipur and Myanmar?
teak
Is
or
child
coal?
trafficking and
Uh,
human trafficking. Do you know? Well,
I
sometime
wish
in
it
a
wasn't. Honestly,
couple of
I
weeks
I, I
ago,
didn't
a
want to.
mute.
I didn't want to say that. I thought that let me just say teak and coal,
No,
but
no.
it's terrible what is
It's
happening.
so I think about 4 or 5 weeks ago, in Nagpur, a 16-year-old mute girl from Manipur was rescued from uh, a sex racket
Yeah.
that was there, and it tracked all the way to Manipur, how she came through, and the anti-human trafficking unit saved these girls over there, and then they kind of broke into a large network. So these girls were coming from different places. She came from Manipur. We've done a story on how certain women, because of the conflict, have come into certain cities, including Goa, from where I am, looking for jobs in spas and massage parlors. I mean, they're looking everywhere else, but questionable spas and massage parlors. These girls get recruited over there, are sent to the rest of the country and sent to Middle East and other parts. And if you really look at it, it's from the border that they get transported to different parts of the world. So you're talking about drugs. I'm saying even human trafficking is a huge, huge
Yeah, yeah.
concern in Manipur.
Which with this kind of chaos, everything will cluster. What I am, uh, I mean, that's terrible, but it's not surprising in times of chaos because that's kind of what happens when there's like a war-like situation. What actually surprises me is the bringing up of the warlike situation, which is the weapons, right? The amount of weapons that have been found and the kind of weapons that have been found. Of course, the fingers do point at China. There's no question. But then the capacity to one distribute, use, and uh, procure and supply weapons, supply arms, supply ammunition for this kind of business has been astonishing, and that has been acknowledged today. How do you see that?
You see, uh, in any armed conflict, and we are in a state of conflict in Manipur, weapons are going to become a prerequisite for utilization, because that's how you instill fear. So it is not surprising that there is a huge availability of weapons in Manipur at this point of time. One is gotten because there was the arms and ammunition depot that was looted, and that's how people got their arms. And then, of course, there's arms that's coming from across the border into Manipur. Sophisticated arms. Sophisticated arms are with both ends, with Mighty Cookie and Cookie insurgents, both of them. It's not like that one has got a few weaker weapons than the other. The difference between both the Mighties and the Cookies in terms of the militants who are coming out, the ones who are actually from the village and now taking arms, is you'll find that the Cookies are more organized than the Mighties as far as the conflict is concerned. But the Mighties, by sheer aggression and to a certain extent, you know, allegations by certain people of getting support from the local police authorities, is what people are saying is giving the Mighty more ammunition. Okay. However, I would like to believe when an NIA steps in and when the center is looking at this situation, it is looking at it holistically. There are obviously going to be players at a ground level that will toe the line of the communities. So, person, maybe in the police or maybe in one of the center-based forces, could have allegiance only to the cookies. Somebody from the Mighty in the Mighty police will have allegiance to the Mighty. It's not unusual. But where the problem is in the fight between the cookies and the Mighties. You are destroying what should be the progress of Manipur. Now, why is Manipur so important to China and why should China have instability? Is because of Prime Minister Modi's Act East policy. You see, in the entire region around the ASEAN countries, South Asia, Southeast Asia, what is Prime Minister Modi doing? He's building networks. He's building networks, whether they are by road or by sea or whether by air. Because if you build networks, can you increase development? Can you increase trade? Can you increase economics? Northeast was always left like a stepchild or stepchildren, where you saw very little development happening, which is why the Mighty and the Cookie problem exists. because there is development in the valley, but there's very limited development in the cookie area. So China doesn't want India to have prominence as far as the development, which leads to a surge of economic activity. They want control over the ports, they want control over the road, but India is breaking them one step at a time. Whether it's the seaports that have been acquired or got into in collaboration with partners in those areas, or whether it's the road, right? So China would need Myanmar insurgents like the Arakan army to create instability in those road projects or the sea projects.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what is happening. Manipur and Northeast needs to have instability. Once instability happens, then China gets an advantage through its road transport system and through its seaport invasion techniques that they have. They cannot allow India to grow. So while we are all focused on Mighty and cookies, and Mighty and Cookie every time on social media are fighting and giving their own version to the story, my dear brothers and sisters from Mighty and Cookie community, there's a larger geopolitical game out here. I mean, open your eyes. Please open your eyes. It's not about you. It's not about you all killing each other. You don't understand the larger game. You are just pawns in a larger interest, on a larger geopolitical interest. You're just giving into your hate.
See,
This is.
yeah, sorry,
Go ahead.
the issue that I kind of and you brought in larger geopolitical interests, and you mentioned about these media houses and stuff like that. Now, to me, that is very interesting because there are forces, and I keep talking about these forces. You know, everybody, including George Soros, to the uh, to the underground, which actually works there through various different channels, through religious channels, through social channels, through NGO channels, through every little thing. There is a dirty little secret behind every little thing. Uh, and these channels have been utilized, giving cover of promotion, giving cover of uh, social work, giving cover of women's empowerment, and this and that and the other, whole lot of things. Now, the issue that actually comes down to it is that there is a conceited effort to ensure that you're not able to stabilize, and that is again an accepted fact.
That's correct.
My question is that these forces have influenced within India before. We've had these protests in Delhi, farmers and this and that and all that stuff we've had, where we know that there was international influence. But Delhi is a population which is susceptible because of social media, because of narratives that are played out there. In Manipur, it's not the same. How are they spreading the message which actually reaches that far?
Okay. Uh, no part of India is devoid of social media, or for
It
that
is, but
matter, internet.
the impact factor.
Let me give you a
Yeah.
simple logic into what was
Sure.
happening. Okay, so you didn't have mobile connectivity, which means your Airtel, your Vodafones, your Geos were not working during the time of the conflict, as on till today. Okay, so internet connectivity was not available, only mobile companies' internet connectivity. But broadband was available. So, in areas where broadband were available, like the valley, some parts of the hills, internet was available. In fact, if you ask one of my team persons, asked these guys who are in the business of providing internet services, you could have actually got a broadband service for like $100 a day, where somebody already had broadband service, allowed you accessibility to use it. They would have charged you a certain amount of money. But now that today that the internet has been restored and mobile companies are allowed, so now you have the mobile company internets as well available. So because there is a belief that the conflict is dying down, and I certainly hope it does. But I believe this just a lull before the storm. There's more to come, because this is not Mighty and Cookie fighting. This is a proxy war that China is waging on India. And I just hope, like I'm saying again, that my sisters and brothers from the Mighty Cookie community understand what I am trying to tell them. It's not about you all. The issue is larger, it's about India. And in India, we have to learn to live together as a family, irrespective of our differences, because the enemy is larger out here. We don't want a divided Manipur. We don't want a divided Northeast. We don't want anything that allows for people to hate. Look at what is happening. No? The first thing that they did, Adi, was to try and turn this into a religious conflict.
Yep.
You
First
know,
it was
ev-
tribal, then it was religious, then it was, I don't know, God knows.
no, it stayed religious for a very long time until I came
Yep.
out and made some statements, saying that no, it's not a religious conflict, and it is not.
It will
Many
not.
people within the Mighty and Cookie community, the extremists as you would call it, want to give it that spin. They still want to give it that spin. It's no, it's about some the Mighties will say it's about us reclaiming what is ours. We are the indigenous people. Conversions are happening out here. I said, okay, no, fine, let's hear you out. The Cookies, on the other hand, have gone and put a cross on a hill that's considered to be sacred to the Mighty population. So obviously there's a conflict happening on that point. Now, at the root of everything, okay, what your past is, in as much as you want to go into your past, if you are from 1947 as a part of India, or in our case like in Goa 1961, then you are a part of India, you are a part of Bharat. There are many complexities to the existence of Bharat, or rather the existence of India, because as our politician Rahul Gandhi says, it's a union of states. But India is not. India may be a union of states. Bharat is not a union of states. Bharat is a union of cultural roots.
Yeah.
So whether you're Mighty, whether you're Kuki, whether you're Naga, your ethnic roots or your cultural roots are with Bharat. For that matter, Burma at some point of time, which is now Myanmar, was a part of the Sanatan Dharma beliefs at that time. So
Yeah.
that you,
Yeah.
how far do you want to go? Right? The rise of Bharat is what we're looking at. So eventually, you might be a Christian, you could be a Hindu, you could be a Muslim. In the end, what are you? I mean, you belong to Bharat and you belong to this land. There's no point in you killing each other for that. Now, why are people doing it? Why do they want to do it? Because they need to show that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is unleashing atrocities on the minorities. It is as
The
simple as
larger
that.
narrative. Hmm.
The larger narrative, whether it's Muslim or Christians. You have
Or
political
today with
leaders
Canada,
from
the
the
Sikhs.
yeah, you have political leaders comparing India now to Nazi Germany and Modi to Hitler. I mean, have you even visited Israel? Have you spoken to people who were a part of the Holocaust? Do you even know what happened? 6 million Jews were exterminated by the Nazis. Is that what is happening in India? Are you saying six
These are
million Muslims and Christians have been executed here? What are you saying? Do you even think that India is capable of that? Do you think people of Bharat are capable of that? That sort
stupid.
of cruelty. I mean, Hitler was a madman. Hitler was of demonic, to say the least. And people who followed Hitler were demonic. Which aspect of that do you see in India, in the people? Whether it's BJP, whether it's Congress, do you think all these guys are capable to be as brutal as Hitler was? It's not in our soul. We can't do that. Please understand, our cultural ethos is much more stronger in us. We have a soul, we have a conscience. Hitler never had a conscience. The Germany, the people who followed Hitler never had a conscience, because please tell me in your conscience, how do you burn kids? thousands of them in the gas chambers. I've been to the museum in Israel. I've seen those little shoes in the frame that they have in the museum. What sort of insane person does that? And you're calling Bharat to be Nazi Germany? You're calling India as Nazi Germany? Do you have even any relevance of what you're talking? You might not like Modi. You don't have to. It's not a prerogative that you have to like Modi. Modi is the prime minister. He's elected. You can choose not to like him. But how can you tell us as Indians that we are like Nazi Germany? Have you lost your mind? An Indian, a Bharatiya can never be like the Nazi Germany's. It's not in there. But what you
Or
saw in Manipur
even like the
is the
Britishers
trigger
who
of
killed
that hate.
4 million men.
Correct. You see, when you take on the government, when you're trying to take on Narendra Modi, you're taking on the government. You're forgetting that the Narendra Modi and the Indian government represents us. This is about us. This is about Bharat. This is about India. Whatever you want to call it.
The sad
So
part, yeah.
Manipur is
There's
about
a
that. Manipur is about narcotics. Manipur is about smuggling of human trafficking. Manipur is about stirring a dormant conflict between Maitis and Cookies and bringing it to the fore and making it violent. That's what Manipur is all about.
I want to
And
ask you
the
one more
only
on.
go ahead.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
No, the only way, Adi, no government can bring a stop to what is happening right now. It is the people who have to do it. See, please understand, Manipur needs development. It needs an economic development. Let's take poppy cultivation, for example, right? Why are they doing poppy cultivation, these farmers? Because if they do normal cultivation, they're earning like about a lakh in 2 months or 3 months. Doing poppy cultivation, they are able to earn about 12 lakhs in a month. There's a huge difference, right? So we have to give them economic ability. We have to develop the hills in a manner that allows for economic development. We have to eradicate drugs in that area. We have to crack down on it. And that's what the Indian government is doing. Give them and have hope. I mean, I keep coming back to them as individuals, as people. They are good people. They are hospitable people. They are service oriented people. There's a genuine goodness in them, but they've allowed for themselves to be consumed by the hate. And for what? Because somebody wants to control the narcotics. Somebody wants to control the land. Somebody did not get the money that was supposed to come to them as per the deal, and that is when everything went haywire. That is the ground reality of Manipur. Drugs, control of the narcotics business, and around this is the ethnic conflict. That ethnic conflict will destroy Manipur unless these two communities don't open their eyes and come to a conflict resolution or and future conflict avoidance. If Israel and the Arab nations could have done that, who have been warring for years and centuries, can find the common sense in them to see a commonality in their own binding, the commonality that binds them. Cannot the mighty, the Cookies, the Nagas, and the Gurkhas in Manipur find the commonality to make Manipur and the other parts of Northeast better? That is
That is
the
true.
that is the peace mission I have in Manipur, Adi, which is why I'm going back again next week to be able to talk sense because you know I'm not I might be politically inclined by my choices, but I'm not a politician, right? I'm only seeing good people doing bad things to themselves. Take
The
the boy,
trouble,
this man that was picked up,
yeah,
right? The man that was picked up by NIA. Who were the guys restricting him? Why was there protest to release these men? They were the same people, no, the innocent people, the mighty community, thinking that we have to save our people, we have to save our people. Now NIA has picked him up for links to Myanmar-related terror organizations. What were you protecting? What are you trying to protect? You're protecting the wolves in sheep clothing. Please understand the difference. There is a war being played with you as the pawn. Both the Maitis and the Kuki community needs to understand that. The Mira
That's the worst.
Paivis, the torch
Yeah,
bearers,
that's the worst thing.
lovely women. I've met them, I've interacted with them, and then there are certain aspects of them that completely disturb me, and I don't want to share that with you because it hurt me to think that the torchbearers of Manipur, people I looked up to and respected in what I read about them in the past, certain conversations of them only showed hate, but that hate is again emerging from wanting to protect themselves because they've been suddenly made to believe that they are under danger of existence. So there is a civilizational conflict happening as well. But that is not the reality of the problem. The reality of
No.
the problem is something else.
Civilizational conflict will be between two villages and this and that for control of a certain tradition or a church or a temple or a mosque or yeah, I don't think it'll go into this kind of an extreme because when
Correct.
you're burning your own houses and stuff like that, it's a little weird. I want to ask you one last small question before we get into some couple of audience questions as well. My main thing to ask you is very simple. You've got a situation today where blood has spilled. Little blood, you can get over it. Take some time. It's terrible. Still get over it. This has gone beyond little blood, right? This has gone beyond humanitarian acceptance limits. Human being knows when there are fights, there will be damage. Understandable. You'll kind of get over it. You'll move forward. This is not the first place where you had internal violence in the country. People move forward. People go. It goes into history. People reconcile and moves forward. How do you see this going forward with the kind of blood that has been spilt on the ground?
You see, I believe at most times deaths in conflicts are mere statistics to people in power.
Sadly,
Okay?
yes.
But to the person who's lost a family member, to a person who's seen a brother or a father being bludgeoned to death, that is not a statistic. That is a life. That is a soul. That is a heart of a family. Or a woman being paraded naked, or a woman raped. They are not statistics. They are individuals. They are individuals who belong to a family who love them. So, to that family, they are their souls, they are their lives. We might walk, we might forget it and move on. They have to live with that sorrow. I know when I landed there the first day, I went to a mighty home. The mighty home, the son and the father were killed in the morning. Okay. And I met the mother of the boy, the wife, and the kids. They were killed at 3 a.m. in the morning. Kuki militants had come in, killed this young family. What do I tell them, Adi? I mean, there's nothing to tell them, right? I can tell them that the government will do something for you. It makes no difference at that point of time. I mean, what did that boy, what did that man or the father have to do with the conflict? They were not even militants. They didn't have guns with them. They were unarmed. It's the same thing that happened when I visited the Cookie family. I went for a funeral over there. Okay,
It's
there
both
was a
sides.
grandmother. There was a grandmother. She was going to touch my feet, and I said I was taken aback, and I know I touched her feet instead. I said, I couldn't. So somebody was translating what she was saying to me, and she was saying, do something, son. You know, this must stop. In whatever little was translated to me. So where is the conflict? These people are not statistics. To powers that might be, they might be statistics. To that family, they are not, right? So why is that hate? And even after that is what I tell them, that yes, you must have lost somebody. It is hard to forget. But you need to reconcile. You need to move on, because there is a future that still exists. The very people that are there with you right now, you have to create a future for them, and that future cannot be with bloodshed. It cannot be with hate. You cannot move like that.
Yeah,
Today, you might want to separate from each other. You might want to separate
they
from
won't
each other.
resolve anything.
But how? What would that resolve? You would move to another separation. You might have continue to have problems with somebody else, and then you want another separation. It's like somebody getting married to somebody, right? They don't get along after a few years of marriage, then they want to separate. There is a huge brutal divorce that happens. Then they get married again, then they separate again. It doesn't work. Relationships are meant to be worked upon. I'm not saying you're in the best situation.
Yeah,
There is hurt, but you have to reconcile. You have to move on. You have to move on for the larger good. And the larger good is Manipur. The larger good is that state. The larger good is the talent that comes out of that state, whether it's sports for now, but there are so many other things that can happen in that state. So much more that can be done from an economic point of view, from tourism, from hospitality, from tech related BPOs, KPOs, because they speak so well, they're so educated in their own limited sense, right? Why are we not seeing that? Why are we not seeing that in Manipur? Why are we hearing about a Manipur where people are carrying machetes and slicing each other's bodies and heads like barbarians? There is so much to Manipur. You look at the displaced people who are living in the relief camps over there, Adi. There are many people, about 30,000 people have come into Delhi because they cannot go back. They don't know what their future is in Manipur. Is that what the people of Manipur want? Is that what the Maitis and the cookies want? You want the cookies to go out and the cookies will go to another place. That's what you want. I mean, this is not, it's not healthy. I'm not preaching to you. I'm not trying to. I'm only trying to make you understand that there's so much better in you, there's so much good in you. It's so evidently that the good is there. What triggered it? What destroyed you? The good in you? That there's so much of hate. I mean, I
yeah,
heard a woman tell me when I asked her, what about this video that came out about these girls paraded naked and all? She very categorically stated that we have told our men to rape the women. This 57-year-old lady who would have a daughter of her own, probably granddaughters, I don't know, actually had the courage or the audacity to say that we told our men to rape the women because they are raping our women. So an eye for an eye is not going to make the world see better. It's only going to make the world blind. You know that stop the hate. You're not these. This is not you. This is not Manipur.
yeah. There've been issues there. I mean, but that's been there. Every place which has a tribal heritage, which is pretty much the whole of the country, has had issues. That's this kind of violence is no answer. Let's get into a couple of questions. There's some interesting
Sure,
ones that have come in, so let's answer a few. We'll take about 10 minutes, or if you don't
sure.
mind, we'll just
No,
like
I don't.
to get these guys' opinions in. The you know, of course, one of the things is this. Dipankar says people in the far east of Bharat, yes, that is the correct term for them, not northeast, are very patriotic. Just that the false narratives have kept them isolated for decades from the mainstream.
I agree. That's exactly what I'm talking about. They need to feel. When I drove to Manipur, and I come from Goa, right? So it's also very green. Manipur is also extremely green, beautiful fields, and
Yeah,
incredible scenic beauty. If you really had to look at it from a visualistic perspective, right? You have these mothers; they tie their kids in this cloth-like thing, which is incredible. And I went and I had food on the road, and I went to certain areas, and I don't know how to describe it. It was beautiful. If it had to have developed in a tourism perspective, it is an incredible destination. Incredible. There are lots of things you can do. You can actually feel an energy. Manipur has an energy, that's very positive. But those few days driving across the streets where the violence was happening, or the conflict was very potent, the energy was very negative. But when you went away from it, there's a huge positive energy in that area. It's fascinating. I believe Manipur has the potential to become a really truly developed, economically developed state. And I believe and I know also that the Indian government is very focused on that.
John says, I have no theory I've heard to date explains the initial ferocity and enduring conflict to this date. Initial ferocity, I agree with. Why? It just, normally violence says there's an escalation. This thing started on top of the ladder, right on the day one.
That's why I said it was ignited. I,
Yeah.
in an article of mine, very categorically stated that Manipur was set on fire. What is important to note is what was the money transactions that was sent to Imphal from April 21st onwards. If people track that, which is what certain authorities are doing, they are mapping that, you will find a huge money transactions happening, and that was from a place in Manipur. It was sent to Imphal, boxes in lakhs of rupees. I mean, 1 lakh per box.
A lot of money came in from South India as well. So
Well,
that's
I'll tell you something very interesting about South India, which many people have overlooked in this case. Do you know when China stopped sending the chemicals to India because we were tightening the situation? Now, chemicals are very important for the production of synthetic drugs, right? Synthetic drugs, the chemicals are coming in from Tamil Nadu. That is why Tamil Nadu is got a little. Certain leaders in Tamil Nadu made statements as far as the conflict was concerned. But whether they connected to it or not is not something that I'm aware of. But the connect with South India and Manipur is chemicals that come in for the utilization of the synthetic drugs creation.
and they say Bharat was never a single country, huh? Jokes apart, you got a guy sitting in Manipur dealing with someone in Tamil Nadu for a set of chemicals. So
In fact,
he's a
some months back, or maybe a year or a little more than that, there was a huge drug hole in Chennai, in the waters in Chennai out there.
yeah.
And I think it was about 100 crore worth of drugs
Mm.
that had
Mm.
made in China a sort of a Mandarin written stamp on it. And it came from Manipur, so it actually went by the water route and landed up in Chennai. And some fishermen happened to somehow collide with the thing that was happening over there. And they found these barrels, and they came from Manipur.
Interesting.
So when it comes to drugs, it's the
Oh,
entire
it's
country.
unified. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All international. Everybody's a friend. Pushkar says, is there a deep state connection within the video circulating on social media where a Kuki militant is giving a speech in a Gurdwara in Canada in Chatham House and CFPR? Have you seen that video? I'm sure you've.
I've seen that video. I've seen that
It's North
video. I
Americans Manipur Association.
Yes,
Nama.
and I'll tell you where I have a lot of difficulties with both the Maitis and the Kuki community. Okay, the problem is an India problem. The problem can only find a resolution when the state government, the center, and the stakeholders of both the Maiti community and the Kuki communities and the Naga communities arrive at a solution. It's not going to be solved by anybody sitting abroad. They might want to create the narrative that everything is in a problem as far as India is concerned and Manipur is concerned, but they're not going to be able to solve the problem. So, my advice to both people from the Maiti and the Kuki communities, the United Nations, the European Parliament, or the US Senate will be able to do nothing to the situation to resolve it. Do you know why? because they only need you to create the noise. They don't need to solve your problem. Your problem will be solved in India.
Yeah.
So please sit down
Talk
and
and finish it
talk
off.
to each and finish off the problem.
Yeah.
Because you might want to make it seem complicated. Every problem is as simplistic as it gets. Many people are of the opinion that you should allow these two kids to be thrown into a room and let them fight it out and then come to their senses. I don't believe that will work. I believe you guys need to wake up to the reality of what is going on. And that reality is only going to shatter the future of Manipur. Whether you want to see it as a mighty Manipur or whether you want to see it as a cookie land, whatever you want to see it as, it has got to be collective. Otherwise, if you're divided, it's not going to happen. And please let me tell you one thing, that come what may, China will not win in the Northeast.
That's the only
Don't
vulnerability
think
we
the
got
government
today.
has kept quiet.
Yeah.
There is a
That's one of
misnomer
the.
that the government is doing nothing. Okay, it is not. It is not important to tell for the government to say what it's doing. It is important for the government to ensure that the right thing is done at the right time. And I think all the encumbrances that existed over the last couple of months have now gone away. Now the Indian government will work, or rather do what it has been planning for a long time as far as Manipur is concerned.
It's quite a frustrating scenario. Dipankar has an insightful comment again. He says, we should not let Myanmar become something equivalent to what Mexico is to USA. We should nip it in the bud. I think
Yeah, I think we should. I
that
agree.
is a that is a
See,
very.
look at another thing that I find really funny, though it's a reality, but I find it humorous because all these things become a part of the conflict. Now, we have a very porous border, okay, an extremely porous border, and the government started work way in 2022 in fortifying these borders, and it's going to take time, right? So when the Myanmar conflict happened, the cookie chins who were on the other side, okay, they too wanted to escape because, in all fairness, same people don't want to be a part of any conflict where they're dying, right? So they ran into India. As simple as that. Not the right thing to do, but the desperate thing to do, right? So you have about 4,000 of these guys reportedly in Manipur and about 40,000 reportedly in Mizoram, okay, who are what you would call illegal immigrants in India, staying in the Northeast. But you cannot call all cookies that. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
I will not accept that you term all cookies as terrorists or you term all cookies as illegal immigrants. That's not true. Yes, there have been ones that have come from Myanmar in the last couple of years. They need to be dealt with. But they need to be dealt with in the humanitarian grounds that are available in that the country follows. So yes, you have to do your procedures, you have to do your investigation, and you have to ensure that they go back. Simple as that.
Absolutely.
Difficult to do, takes time, but that's the way it has to be. So why did they come in? They came in because of a porous border. They came in because, well, the cookies in Manipur, the cookie chains are connected to the cookies there, right? So it's not
Most of them are
unusual.
same family, same tribe, same, you know,
Correct.
my cousin's
In much the
cousin sort
same
of
way,
a
you
thing.
have Maitis that have connects in Myanmar as well, right? The point is this. The point is we have to look at the problems that are there in Manipur and start resolving them one by one. But to resolve the conflict is going to take time. It's going to take a lot of patience. But most of all, it's going to need a lot of healing between the both the communities to be able to openly see eye to eye. Because eventually, They have to live together.
No question. JJ says, what happened in Manipur, let that not happen again. These incidents are against our aspirations as a country going forward. These guilty should be punished and the politics should be kept aside.
I agree.
Ideally,
Completely
doesn't
agree.
happen, but that's the problem. It doesn't happen. Aditya, I think you asked a question about weapons. I think we've spoken about that already. Uh, let's see. Sorry, yeah. Yeah, this is interesting. Naveen says Arunachal Pradesh people have realized the Chinese propagandas. Now they support India with full of patriotism. I think that's very interesting because I was watching someone talk about the highways and the roads that were building that are getting built up in Arunachal. And he said, the men, of course, doing field work and this and that. So these women are doing nothing. And they come and say, okay, we'll help you. And they literally carry the loads and do a whole lot of things. So there's a
No,
sense of connection built up there.
that's the same, Adi. That's the same in Manipur as well. Please understand that the fraction of the problem is a very small percentage that is getting the attention of the conflict. Okay. But by and large, many of them are in for progress. You ask this educated lot of Manipuris, whether they are Maiti, Kukis, Nagas, or Gurkhas, they want Manipur to transform. Nobody wants to live in a state of conflict. So they want it, but they somehow, like, I keep coming back to what triggered it. It is not like they were not living happily together, no. Even
Yeah.
if they had the differences, what triggered it? Something
And that
triggered it,
was
and that's
that was
what we
so
investigate.
violently. That was so
Correct.
violently, that's they could have been clashed, but not this violently. Aditya says, is Meghalaya the next Manipur in the making because we are seeing the rise of immigration? Soon they may become smugglers.
Well, I have no comment on that right now. I I will have to just we're just analyzing what's going on in the Northeast at this point of time. But yes, I believe a lot of Northeast regions are going to be targeted. A lot of conflict will be stirred in order to create instability. In fact, I also believe that a lot of areas that are BJP controlled, with BJP governments, are going to see a lot of trouble because that's the narrative that they want to set. Okay, you will have conflicts that might arise in Goa, which I've written about. You already saw one in Haryana, which was going to really go out of control, but it was brought under control. So you're going to find that happening. Now, Manipur becomes important primarily because of a large Christian population. And if you were to ask the cookies themselves, for example, when people have been talking about religious conflagrations in Manipur, they will tell you that this is not a religious conflagration or a religious conflict. It is an ethnic conflict that they're talking about. You ask the Maitis, they will also tell you it's an ethnic conflict. By and large, that's what they believe. So, what two extreme aspects of this religious community want to say is something that they are constantly going to be at each other for. That, we are the superiors, we know the way to God, like certain of these pastors would say. And there will be those from the Hindu community that would want to protect what is theirs, indigenously theirs. So you're going to have that conflict, but that conflict could never have turned so violent. For it to turn so violent required a certain magnitude of detonation. And that detonation, I'm saying, was something that happened on April 21st in a part of Manipur, which led to money coming into Imphal. And that is what the authorities are investigating. And I'm sure they will get to who is behind this.
Mindwave says the inner line permit has to be done with, and all the northeast has to be properly integrated.
I
I
agree.
think there's nothing one can say. Uh, I for me the most unsettling thing is I said this before. When you start a war, you start with thoda, if we see two guys fighting on the street, it's gali galoch, and then it'll be tune mere mother ko gali diya, mother, then the collar will get held up, and then some guy will push someone. So it's a slow escalation of the situation. Here, the first day of battle was boom. And I mean, Maitis went after cookies, cookies went after Maitis, and no one really knows what was the first spark. No one knows that. People blame it on that event of the chief minister. People blame it on the high court judgment. People blame it on multiple things. But the
I
exact root
personally
cause,
believe, I personally believe that there is a huge involvement of the PLA in triggering PLA Manipur. I'm talking about, and PLA Manipur is linked to PLA China.
yeah, yeah,
They are behind the triggering of this conflict. Okay, now PLA can think what it wants to, and it doesn't make a goddamn difference to me. But the fact of the matter is, if we know what the truth is, we're going to come after you.
yeah, yeah,
It's as
absolutely,
simple as that.
absolutely. And I'll take one last one. Mind waves. Thanks so much for your contribution. I'll take, yeah, Troll. Manipur is a geological wonder. The Lokak Lake is a super volcano caldera like Yellowstone but dormant. That is one. And of course, the rainforest, the foliage. I mean, people call
So
the
the food,
Amazon.
I had
This
I
is,
had this amazing food over there. Okay, I was in one of the relief camps, and I after a long time I sat on the floor. Okay, because I'm not used to sitting on the floor, and I got a bit of a tummy, a punch. So it was a little excruciating sitting on the
it's
floor.
not easy.
But but there was this whole group of women, and then we were sitting in my team and myself, and these men, and the women were the mighty women were laughing because they found that I was very uncomfortable. Firstly, sitting on the floor, and secondly, eating with my hand. Uh, which I love, but not while sitting on the floor, you know. And there was a lovely mat, but the food, oh my god, it was simple rice and dal. I ate a lot. I couldn't move for about an hour. It was so good. I ate a lot of rice and dal. That's it. But it was
No,
an incredible
there's
food.
a whole variety of food there. It's. I
Yeah.
mean, it's amazing. Savio, thank you so much. I think this has been quite an enlightening discussion because people don't talk about it, and one of the things people don't want to even listen about it. It's not a pleasant discussion to have because today, with the progress within the country, people don't want to listen to something which is going wrong. It's a very sad thing, but I think as a country we need to learn how to take the positives as well as the negatives and kind of learn from it. And one of the biggest things that I would say is that, yeah, every time I've done these videos, obviously, by the next morning or the next day, you will find the entire lot of people from the Northeast basically will start commenting on, uh, no, no, you're right in this, you're wrong in that. And that's perfectly all right. I'm actually happy that they at least engage with these videos. But I think they should take the bottom line message that you've sent that, guys, listen, just stop. This is the time that we need to stop. You're being played not just by the Chinese, but by, a, I mean, 92-year-old man sitting somewhere in Canada or I don't know where. Apart from various other geopolitical forces, media, and this and that. So it's not worth it. Stop it. And there
True.
are there are ways to sort this out.
I'll give you a simple example. Uh, when you're in a house, for example, and you're in a house and a robbery takes place in that house because the nature of a robber is to rob a house. So he comes into the house and he robs the house and he goes away, takes away your valuables, probably beats up your somebody in your home and goes. Okay. Do you start blaming the robber, or do you start understanding where you were in a lacune, where you failed? Because if you had better measures to protect your home, better measures to protect your people, then the robber would not have been able to enter. And that is the message to the people of Manipur and to us as Indians in totality, that we allowed for certain sections outside of India and within India to allow this conflict to boil. And that's why you saw the ferocity of it and the violence.
Yeah.
By blaming the robber, we gain nothing. We have to fortify the forts again. And in order to fortify the forts, is to first plug the chinks in the armor. It's as simple as that. Obviously, this was allowed to percolate because somebody in power turned the other way. Power on the ground in Manipur is what I'm talking about. Power within the communities, power within the administration allowed for it to happen and turned the other way. And it's not fair to innocent people. It's not fair to that family I met in mighty territory who had whose children, the father and the son were them with their was there with them in the evening and in the morning. They're not there. It's not fair. It's not fair to that girl who got beaten up on her head and her husband was bludgeoned to death. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to turn the other way. It's not fair to allow for miscreants, terrorists to go ballistic, that you burn your religious places, you burn homes, you parade women naked. This Manipur is the land of the sacred feminine. There is an energy of Shakti in Manipur. It's not done. So my earnest appeal to all Mighty and Kuki and the Nagas and the Gurkhas, we need to work this out together. This is a family. This is our land. This is Bharat. You want me, I'm there. I'm coming into Manipur. Let's just work it out. It's not good for us. There's lot to do. There's lot to do for progress. Please stop. Please stop the hate.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's the bottom line message that should go out from our discussion. And I'll get in touch with you after you return to can kind of get a
Sure.
better ground update. It'll be nice to have you back, guys. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you.
It's a solemn episode, but it's an important one. Thank you so much, Savio.
Thank
Jai
you.
Hind.
Jai Hind.